Hi there, this is Tim with a Star Wars Battlefront 2 video. Now, I understand a lot of you have probably already played this game, but I thought I would make a video anyway. Because Star Wars has been a fairly big part of my life. It was the first VHS I ever purchased for myself. My cat is called Chewie, yes, really. And it's certainly among my favourite film franchises. I have a lot of passion for it. But I've never really played the games based upon it. I never really felt that there was a decent enough storyline, and I probably missed out there a little bit. I know that there's been a few really good games that I just never really played. But the last ones I really enjoyed were probably X-Wing versus TIE Fighter from back in the early 90s. And that was probably just because of the space combat that I'd kind of grown to enjoy from Frontier Elite 2, Wing Commander, games like that. That was really the only reason that I played those. Before I talk about the game itself, I should mention that I listened to the Inferno Squad audiobook by Christy Golden. It's kind of a prequel to the game. The backstory of the main character in Battlefront 2, and it's about Iden Versio of the Special Forces Unit Inferno Squad. It begins at the destruction of the Death Star in Star Wars Episode 4, which she survives, and focuses largely on the infiltration of her Imperial unit into the remnants of Saw Gerrera's partisans. Saw Gerrera himself having been killed in the destruction of Jeddah in the Rogue One movie. It's a decent backstory that is worth a listen or a read if you're a super fan, though certainly not essential before playing the game. It gives a good insight into who the main character is and what she's capable of, but it's a bit of a weak story. Though I do understand it's merely a fleshed out backstory, and I can accept that for what it is, I did feel it ended a bit too suddenly. Much more time was spent fleshing out details early on, but once things came together at the kind of culmination of the story, it just seemed to stop so suddenly. Again, I sort of get it, and maybe it's due to the fact that the story continues in Battlefront 2 that it actually ended the way it did. But the same way that the book ends, I feel like the game begins suddenly as well. You're not really told much about your main character, so maybe that's a bit of a plus for reading the book first. And without giving away too much about the campaign, it doesn't mess around in showing you why this woman is in the position she is. Some of the early missions seem easy, but I feel they were perhaps designed that way to show you how incredibly good she is at her job. Remember that Darth Vader scene in Rogue One? Yeah, kind of like that. You know, she seems a little bit invincible at first. The campaign begins shortly before the destruction of the second Death Star in Return of the Jedi, and ends at the formation of the First Order in The Force Awakens, and for any Star Wars fans is kind of a must play. If you want to imagine this being Star Wars 6.2, 6.5, that's about where it fits. It certainly includes a number of storyline elements that I had never heard before, and all those things are now considered Star Wars canon. I'm about to sound fairly negative on the storyline itself, but the fact is that I enjoyed the playthrough. I just feel a little bit misled on what I was going to be playing and what this storyline is actually about. Because although this is builders playing the villain, it feels like nothing of the sort. Both because you get to play sections of the campaign as Luke Skywalker, Lando Calrissian, Princess Leia, Han Solo, and Kylo Ren, but also because it's just not how the story ends up feeling to you as a player. There is an unbalanced feel to the missions as well, and some begin to feel monotonous or ultimately pointless. You get to walk around a bar as Han Solo, listening in on conversations in order to find out who you should be talking to. Why? This isn't Skyrim. Missions like that just made it feel like EA were desperate to use their character set and stick someone like Han Solo in at the expense of the campaign, of the storyline itself. They frankly felt to me like they ripped the campaign apart and just made it feel wrong. Why would I not control the main character of the game in a battle where she takes part, and instead fight rather randomly as other major Star Wars characters? The main character is superb. She's there flying around in the same battle. Why am I not controlling her and feeling her story? That's one of the things with Grand Theft Auto which works really well, is that you play one character, and although in Grand Theft Auto 5 they managed to expand that to 3, it still worked because you were connected with those characters in a way that you do not feel with Battlefront 2. It just does not work that way. You know, the main character is superb, the story is supposed to be hers. Why not stick with that? Why not stick with her? I didn't need to play as Han Solo at all. Anyway, the non-DLC main campaign I'm covering in this piece is also pretty short, as it took me around 5 hours to complete, and I'm not that good at first-person shooter games. Also, about 1.5 hours of that 5 hours was dead stick gameplay, where you're just listening to dialogue while you're walking or flying, or watching a cutscene. I have to estimate it only having around 3 hours of actual player-driven gameplay. That's really not very much.
Stay on him. Blockade runner destroyed.
Commander Versio, this is Mock 3. Rebel iron cannons have disabled.
Now, Battlefront 2 is a beautiful game. The controls are great, the textures are great, 3D modeling is fantastic, and the audio is of the quality you would expect from a AAA title. This has actually drawn me into a second playthrough, because I want to take a closer look at everything, maybe take some screenshots, and enjoy the visuals and ambience a little bit more than I did the first time. Plus, it's Star Wars. Of course I'm going to want to see it again. Most of the level maps have multiple ways to complete them, and this lends itself to the use of stealth and careful planning. You can use a good variety of weapons and skill upgrades to alter the combat to support your playstyle, but ultimately I always found that whatever route I chose and whatever gameplay style I tried to play in, I always found myself picking off targets at a distance with a long-range weapon while using the same set of upgrades. There are some irritating things about the game that make you realize these are staged sets, and the AI don't really attempt to seek you out at any time. They'll follow patrol routes and only really react, even to an alarm, when they look right at you. This means you can often sit in one location and pick off all the triggered AI, and then just move on to the next trigger point whenever you feel like it. That's where it starts to feel monotonous. If your health gets low, retreat for a few seconds behind a tree or some other object, and you're good to go again. Though this seems to be a common issue with first-person shooters, it feels a little bit annoying to me. So to summarize, I think it's a fantastic game. It's definitely something that if you like Star Wars, or if you even just like space games, you should play through. But as a single selling point, the main campaign, it's not worth the price that it's currently being sold for at the time of this video upload. Grab it when it's on sale. That's all I can really say. And the graphics are great, sound and music is great, the gameplay is great, the replayability, definitely great, being Star Wars, and the storyline is actually pretty good. I just wish it was a little bit different. So trying to move on from the storyline itself, I'm delighted with the graphics, sound, and implementation of Star Wars into a single player experience. And I've got to thank EA for doing that. You know, Battlefront 1 didn't have a single player storyline. This does. Thank you for that. But I just can't get over the fact that this was a missed opportunity to truly break out into a brand new type of storyline, and a unique situation where you would get to play a real villain like the gaming press actually suggested she would be. What a shame. Now, are you ready for some spoilers? Let me expand on my previous thoughts and talk about the main campaign, including some spoilers about it. In the Inferno Squad book by Christy Golden, the team infiltrate a band of rebels, alienating their friends and family, albeit temporarily, by appearing to be defectors from the Empire. They even take part in missions where they are publicly involved in the murder of Imperial citizens, including children, to maintain their cover. Aiden Versio, the main character in the Battlefront 2 main story, seems resolutely loyal to the Empire in the book, but he's very clearly portrayed as distant to her father, which is an important thing to take note of, and that's putting it nicely. During her time with the rebels, she gained a certain level of respect for them, and towards the end of the book, she actually let someone live and lied to her father about it. Aiden's apparent hatred shown on her face for the rebels at the beginning of Battlefront 2's main story seems a little misplaced after listening to the book, while her later criticism of the Empire failing to devise ways to protect the Death Star and himself does as well. I don't really feel like they did a good job of showing her realizing that she's on the wrong side. It happens too quickly, although I do believe the timing of it makes sense in Operation Cinder. Now, what is Operation Cinder? Well, it's the final order of the newly dead Emperor, and it's a false flag attack by the Empire upon its own homeworld. Whether the Emperor intended to sacrifice the Death Star and himself with it is unknown, but it certainly makes sense in founding the First Order for this whole series of events to take place, as nothing gives you the power to increase military spending and control as pretending your opponent is more capable of your destruction than they truly are. It's something that we see in politics today. It works, unfortunately. It is this attack, this false flag attack, that allows Aiden Versio and select members of her Inferno squad team to realize who the Empire really is, who her father really is. And once Aiden turns to the rebellion, I feel that happens a little bit too quickly as well. It's a little bit far-fetched that after a couple of sentences they basically trust her to run missions with them, whereas in the prequel book, the entire length of the prequel book, Saw Gerrera's partisans don't trust her. So that's a little bit kind of irritating. And the fact that she actually switches sides, becomes a rebel, that's why I feel a little bit misled about what this story actually is. You begin the second mission on Endor, and that's when she begins to question the Emperor. By the fourth mission, you're controlling Luke Skywalker. Again, why? The only important information to arise from that mission is that a member of Inferno Squad, who's also at the same location, discovers that Luke has some of the powers the Emperor had, thereby questioning what they knew about Luke and their Emperor. The very next mission, so the fifth mission, is based around Operation Cinder, where their defection to the rebels is pretty much complete the moment the cutscenes end and the missions begin. That means that in a very real sense you only get one mission playing the bad guy that every media outlet and EA tried to push this product as. You then get missions with Aiden Versio the Rebel, Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Lando Calrissian, Princess Leia, and a vague experience controlling Kylo Ren. This is really disappointing for me, because although I did enjoy the playthrough, I did enjoy the storyline for what it was, I just can't get over what a missed opportunity this really is to have let people experience the dark side, or the Empire, or the bad guy, or any of these things that the gaming media said that this game was, and that EA said that it was. You know, I understand you don't want to spoil a storyline, but what a disappointment that truly is. Alright, I hope you enjoyed that. You probably had all already played it by the time I've put out this video, but hey, I listened to the book first, and I'm hardly playing PC games right now, so, or any games right now. So yeah, I'm late, but whatever. Thanks, bye bye.